For centuries, the Shroud of Turin has stood as one of the most enigmatic relics in human history. At first glance, it is nothing more than a length of ancient linen, faded and fragile with time. Yet upon its fibers lies the faint, ghostly image of a man, his body marked with wounds that appear to correspond to crucifixion. To millions of faithful, this man is Jesus Christ, his agony and resurrection rendered on fabric in a way no science has ever come close to fully explaining. To doubters, it is a medieval forgery, a clever ploy devised to stir devotion and pilgrimage. Between these two poles, however, is a landscape of mystery, argument, and discovery that has refused to settle for more than 7 centuries. And then, with the arrival of artificial intelligence, the secrets of the shroud have become even more profound instead of being solved. What happened when modern algorithms were used on this relic left scientists not just stunned, but, for once, wordless. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. It was not the first time the shroud had been investigated. Through centuries, experts put it to infinite tests: carbon dating, microscopic analysis of fibers, chemical scans, infrared imaging, and photo enlargement. Every test yielded information, but not conclusiveness. The notorious 1988 carbon dating tests implied a medieval period of origin, in the 13th or 14th century, apparently verifying suspicions of a forgery. Those results were, however, challenged, as critics argued that the samples for testing were taken from a corner of the cloth that had been fire damaged and then restored. Subsequent tests revealed inconsistencies that called the validity of the first results into question. The shroud would not succumb to certainty, and thus it persisted in its state of liminality, an object suspended between faith and unbelief. In the last few years, however, technology has progressed beyond the imaginations of earlier generations. Artificial intelligence, and more specifically deep learning and neural networks, became not only instruments of efficiency but also instruments of revelation. Whereas traditional imaging methods attempted to take clearer images, AI possessed the power to detect concealed patterns, correlations, and data dimensions hidden deeply within the fibers of the fabric. It was possible to train it not only to refine an image, but to study from the sheer form of light, shadow, and molecular differentiation. When scientists chose to redirect AI toward the Shroud of Turin, they were not looking for coincidental findings. They were expanding on decades of earlier explorations, applying a technology that was capable of revealing what the human eye and human mind could not. The findings far exceeded anticipation. High-resolution images of the fabric were input into neural networks trained to identify subtle transitions of shading, texture, and discoloration. Gradually, patterns began to emerge that had long been missed. What the naked eye saw as a two-dimensional, faint outline of the body was made known by AI to have structured information within. The fabric was not a two-dimensional print, it had embedded within it information that was reconstructible in 3 dimensions. Depth maps started to take shape, tracing bone structure, musculature, and vascular routes with anatomical precision. The shroud, apparently, had not only photographed an image but preserved a trace of a living individual in a way that no other medieval method could match. The scientists' amazement was deep. Forensic analysts working on the AI reconstructions reported consistency with true anatomy. The wounds aligned with what is historically known about crucifixion, the placement of nails in the wrists rather than the palms, the scourging marks across the back, the wound in the side. These were not the errors of an artist guessing at torture, but precise details consistent with modern medical understanding. Yet the question remained, how could such detail be embedded in cloth without paint, dye, or direct contact? Additional AI analysis uncovered even more peculiar anomalies. Applying spectral imaging and computational models, the algorithms identified non-random variations in fiber aging and coloration. The minor changes indicated a unique, simultaneous event that affected the material at the molecular level simultaneously, instead of through mechanical decay or human use of pigments. It was as if the fibers had been subjected to an energy burst, abrupt, even, and unlike any artificial or natural process. To others, it was like a photographic negative inked not by human touch but by light itself, but even that comparison appeared inadequate. The scientists remained quiet at this point. The laboratories that were often filled with hypotheses and counterarguments chatter stood in stunned silence. They could not put it into words. For there was not only a more distinct picture of a crucified man, but the sense of something additional, a presence in transition, a moment hung between life and death, or death and something else. The algorithms depicted silhouettes that implied movement, as if the form had not been stationary but was in the midst of change. The photo resembled less a fixed portrait and more like a suspended moment of transit, arrested in the very fabric of the linen. It was this sense of moment, not just of body, that left scientists reaching for words. Some wrote as if time itself had been stamped. The shroud did not bear memory so much. It bore event. Not words, not artifice, but immediate echo of event. Historians were compelled to redefine what qualifies as a record. Usually, records are found in documents, inscriptions, and artifacts specifically made. And here was an object that appeared to have recorded history not through human intervention but through some unknown natural or supernatural means. The linen had come not into being as an image but as an archive, a witness without voice. The philosophical consequences were overwhelming. Science has long been seen as the means that disenchant, which strip away layers of awe to expose underlying laws and processes. But here, AI did the opposite. It stripped away the layers only to find more layers, and each one was more mysterious than the previous. Clarity bred not certainty but wonder. The more closely technology looked, the deeper the mystery became. The silence of the scientists was not failure. It was acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that they were standing in front of something that could not be defined, something that possibly was never intended to be demystified but merely encountered. Others started to hypothesize if the shroud inadvertently served as a recording device. The fabric of the linen, similar to a natural grid, may have recorded information in a manner similar to digital encoding, centuries prior to such ideas being conceived. Is the picture a natural data storage system created by an as yet unknown phenomenon? The idea pushed imagination to the extreme. But it was difficult to dispute the presence of redundancies in the cloth, messages that only contemporary computing methods could crack. The spread of the news created ripple effects. Theologians who had grown long used to supporting or questioning the authenticity of the shroud were left in shock. The AI disclosures did not confirm nor invalidate religion. They did not state the shroud was undeniably the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. But what they did was raise the discussion. No longer could the artifact be explained away as a medieval hoax. It had too much depth, too much cohesion, too much inexplicable detail. Faith was not validated or invalidated, it was deepened. Skeptics conceded to fascination. Believers had reason for greater awe. And those who fell in between saw the force of mystery to encompass doubt and devotion within its circle. Anthropologists watched how human cultures imbue objects with meaning and frequently turn base materials into vessels of transcendence. But in this case, the shroud transcended symbolism itself. Even to those without religious belief, AI discoveries provoked another kind of reverence. One did not require faith to be awed by a relic that seemed to contain a moment printed beyond human imitation. Forensic scientists also recognized the singularity of the evidence. They had never encountered a case in which cloth recorded anatomical accuracy without distortion, paint, or direct pressure. It was analog-free evidence, a sui generis category. Computer scientists, on the other hand, were astonished at how their algorithms, meant to sort and categorize, had functioned instead as interpreters between worlds, the visible and invisible, the material and immaterial. They started to ask themselves, how many more artifacts could hold quiet data waiting to be decoded? Would other relics, parchments, or ancient textiles hold hidden depth through the eyes of AI? Historians pondered the irony of it all. Medieval pilgrims used to approach the shroud with reverence, thinking that it was divine. Centuries afterward, skeptics tried to break it down with tests, labeling the image as a forgery. And now, in the age of technology, the most sophisticated tools man had created brought awe back in a surprising manner. Mystery had reasserted itself, even through the very tools meant to dispel it. The silence of the scientists in the moment of discovery is someday perhaps going to be looked back upon as historic. For in that silence was acknowledgement that at times discovery is not about answers, but about being in awe of enormity. It was a silence that was reverent, a silence that knew boundaries, a silence that accepted the inadequacy of language in the presence of mystery. The reverberations of this discovery keep spreading. Museums can start to scan artifacts and relics using AI, looking for unsuspected layers of meaning. Scholars can return to abandoned objects with renewed interest. Philosophers can argue about what it is to have an event itself stamped into material. Artists can find inspiration in a picture not made by human hand but still somehow real as a form of natural iconography. And theologians can go on to consider how technology might deepen instead of erode the feeling of the sacred. The Shroud of Turin persists, as ever, unsolved. It is not resolved whether it is genuine or fake. Its provenance is not established. But with AI, it has become something beyond a relic. It has become a mirror of humanity's greatest questions, concerning time, being, death, and the possibility of transgression. It connects the medieval and the modern, religion and science, piety and doubt. It says that not all truths must be explained. Some must be encountered with wonder. Ultimately, the Shroud's biggest secret is not what it reveals about history, but what it reveals about us. That even in a machine age, some secrets are still wrapped in silence. That discovery doesn't always take away marvel. Sometimes, it enhances it. And that the deepest truths are not necessarily those that provide us with answers, but those that leave us breathless.